Dear people, welcome to the show. Master Mission and Union with Petra presents Union News. Welcoming your twin flame, upsetting you. The real twin flame work happens on the inside, and then it will guaranteed manifest outside. In this series of lives, I share about what that means for my union consciousness process to inspire you to find yours. It serves as the source for your regular twin flame news. Today on the show, we have welcoming your twin flame, upsetting you. And let me immediately tell you that it means not that you philosophically distance yourself from yourself. I think actually some people on the internet advise that for twin flames. That's not at all what I mean. What it means is when you can accept whatever is going on realistically in your feeling life between your twin flame and you, such as that they are upsetting you, and exactly in this precise way. When you can accept that in and actually feel your feelings about that, so that those feelings about that transform. So you're not numbing yourself out. You're not going to philosophically distance yourself from yourself to see it in an overview as if you are flying above your life and nothing really matters. No, you are welcoming the actual upset and you feel it. You feel your anger. You feel your grief or whatever it is fully. And you allow that so much that it transforms. That is going to transform into something else. And you really want that. And then the next step comes. And you might, in that next step, be upset again by your twin flame. And the next feelings that you're going to feel and then transform, and then something else arises. That is the definition of the twin flame journey correctly lived, leading to harmonious union and beyond. Yes, beyond as well. When you can do this, welcoming the twin flame upsetting you in this way, and only in this way, wow, that's really the crux of the whole journey. And let me for a moment explain why we have the possibility to become a paid Patreon member on this and all live shows. You can listen to it and enjoy, and that is fine. But when you want the shows to work spiritually healing on you and your union, you invest in the messages. That's how you support your union healing. Money unlocks it. And if you'd like to invest some more in your union, even than only in the Patreon, there is always the possibility at this moment to come to me, ask your strategy session, and we meet online in a online video call and discuss how I can help you. Because I have brought true twin flames to their true union. All of them that come to me with genuine intentions and start to invest in their union process. Have their twin flame run back to them. Almost all of them. Immediately. Also last year in 2025, that was the case. Amazing. This is, of course, because of the spiritual alignment and achievement that I bring to the table, and not because of anything else. And you connect with that, you click in with that, and you start to do the true twin flame inner work, and you are with me And there you go, twin flame runs back to you. Also, for the people that have continued to make use of the possibility to be with me in my twin flame school, from those that have done that beyond the time that they thought they would have needed to reach what they longed for. In other words, those who were persistent and patient and committed, truly committed, they reached their harmonious twin flame union consciousness state. And this happened until today 3 times, and you could be next. And that is the true thing that you want to have, because that'll guarantee all the developments with your twin flame will work out. And that's what I can offer because I have it. So that's how it goes. And if you want to go in that direction, please don't hesitate to come talk to me in the strategy session. And the link is below to the Patreon and also to the strategy session if you want to. Today, we're talking about what is actually the surprising, possibly, I think, reality of what the twin flame work entails. You're going to do the key tool. That's the only thing that works. And I have explained that in many videos, and of course also behind the screen in many content in my twin flame school. You can even study it in my Facebook group, which is another beautiful opportunity to come and grab your very valuable information for very little money as an introduction to my work. So if you want that, you're also welcome there. It just forms together with the Patreon a beautiful first step you can take before you might want to go deeper with me to really go the full journey and ask your strategy session. So the key tool is also able to be studied already in the Facebook group if you want to. That's what you're going to do, but it has to lead then to you clicking in to the consciousness state of harmonious twin flame union. And that's really what you want. That's really what it comes down to. That's really what you need. And you could be next. So yeah, it's going to be awesome. But what is the crux of that twin flame inner work? Welcoming your twin flame upsetting you. That's what it is. That's what it eventually boils down to. You know, when you look at the 4 steps of the key tool, first is what are you actually feeling, you know? And the second is we're going to work in the direction of turning that around, not only accepting it in, but also turning it around. And it ends with, I have 2 versions of the key tool, and it ends with that you have turned it around completely, felt it through, and have landed in something new, genuinely in your feelings, in your energy, in your heart, in your system, in you. And in short, that comes down to welcoming your twin flame upsetting you. So when your twin flame upsets you because they have blocked you on Facebook, or they have ran away, or they live on the other side of the world and you can't see what they're doing there on every moment, and that highly upsets you, and you have no idea how to ever come together with them and live together with them in the romantic dream that you have for your life and your union, and that greatly upsets you. And then you don't go complain on the internet. You don't go complain to me, but you say, okay, then that is so. Then that is exactly how my twin flame is upsetting me right now. And the fact that I can see that and be with that and use that as my step 1 material for my key exercise that I apparently need to do right now because I am upset, then you start to be grateful, because now you know what you yourself can do to help yourself towards your own union, guaranteed. And then you start to see, oh, this is how I welcome in my own solution. Get clear on what is upsetting you about your twin flame. Actually allow it in, fully feel it. Do the key exercise until it is transformed. And you are one step closer, a genuine step closer to your actual harmonious twin flame union, the consciousness state, and the translation of that into your physical life in all the romantic relationship ways that you dream of. And now you've made an actual step in that direction. But a lot of the time, this won't bubble up naturally out of you yet. This gratitude for your twin flame upsetting you. You won't welcome it yet. You'll be genuinely irritated, completely and utterly out of your mind of anger, for instance, or deeply sad, or all of it at the same time, or whatever it is. And that is kind of normal, kind of human, and very understandable, and for sure the start. But become aware that that is so. And this is why you need practice of the key tool. This is why you need guidance in the process of going there. This is why I opened my twin flame school, right? Because I know how it goes, because I was there once and I did it all. You don't know yet how that works, welcoming your twin flame upsetting you. That's the normal start. No, nobody knows that. It's just very strange idea. Well, maybe you can sort of dissociate from yourself and fly around in the sky and look at your life from a distance and be all spiritual about it, but that's not what we mean. What we mean is actually, feeling the rage and the grief and whatnot. And then still welcoming that, and then still allowing that to play out within the direction of where the key tool is guiding you to, so that you transform it. We're not going to live out boundaryless rage, especially not on other people. That's not my suggestion. My suggestion is to not dissociate and to allow it to exist as an opening to the rest of the inner work that will give you the outcome that you've made a new step in the direction to your true twin flame union. And to welcome that opportunity nevertheless, even though all kinds of emotions might have been triggered into you that are awful, that feel temporarily awful. And you have to get used to this whole different style of looking at these things. And that might take a while. You're really not used to that. It's a different perspective, let's say, to how you're feeling, how this works, what steps forward actually are, because they're not trying to, like, how shall we say it? Try to influence their psychology in a way that you're actually like manipulating them. You do it with the best of intentions and whatnot, but you're actually trying to use psychology to manipulate them to come back to you, and that never works. Or maybe you try to use logic, but that's just serving your own ego's agenda, and that never works. And at the end of the day, this is the only option, to welcome your twin flame upsetting you and get used to this completely different idea of how it is supposed to go. And you really might need like 2 years of being completely committed to this kind of work before it settles in you like, "Oh, yeah, now I start to see what this means, welcoming your twin flame upsetting you." And I actually do genuinely start to welcome it now because now I understand that every time I do it the right way, I make a huge leap into the direction of being eternally together in harmony with my true twin flame. Now I start to oversee this little process that I do because I have lived through it now time and again, and I start to trust that it leads to the right thing. You need some time for that. You need some guidance for that. You need some help with that. You need some coaching in that. You need to have the opportunity to be in a safe space for that. And you'll need some time to get used to it because you're going to need to do this all the time. And then it becomes, as they say, your second nature, right? Then it becomes a habit, and then it becomes just something that is how you live your life. And then even later it becomes something that you can't even remember how you ever did not do that. But that is the whole development that you need to go through, and then you can just be together with your true twin flame. So I figured this would be today's topic. So I think here it is. I think I explained it. I hope it's helpful. It's an idea to look at it differently. And it's like the whole crux of what is actually happening inside of the twin flame inner work. The only twin flame inner work that truly works, which is the key tool, and a couple of key tool supporting extras that I developed in relation to Divine Mother as well. And what does not work is psychology alone, logic, waiting until the next wave of twin flames will be in union, waiting until the next portal in the cosmic whole of spiritual beingness. What does also not work? Blaming your twin flame. Think you can blame them into union. You see, these are a lot of things that people think they need to do. Or they even think they need to have all kinds of weird, tuned out spiritual experiences. And they can be maybe genuine, like experiences that are genuine spiritual experiences. But it's not the twin flame inner work. So you're still not doing it. So all these things are what many people think and talk about and maybe do or try or, well, I don't know what to do. Let me just wait or whatever. Or people talk about it in videos online. Like, let's talk about some psychology again for twin flames. And these things can have a place in life. But if you want to be with your twin flame in union, then you do the twin flame inner work only and exclusively, and you commit to it. So that's just genuinely how it goes. There's no other solution. And well, I suggest being grateful for that. And for the time being, letting the rest go. And then it will work out for you. So, and what is this twin flame inner work? Well, again, if you get used to it, you will eventually find out that it is something along the lines of welcoming your twin flame upsetting you. And there is something else inside of this as well. And this is certainly something I didn't want to leave unmentioned. And that is that you also need to trigger and upset your twin flame. Yeah, I said it. You even need to do that. But don't worry, you'll upset them eventually, gradually, automatically. Because That's just the nature of how it goes. And they'll feel upset at a certain moment that you really feel like you did nothing wrong. And that can be a good sign because they also need to have their door that opens towards their deeper layer of self that you touch in them with your magic on them so that they also have the opportunity to go deeper just by the fact that you are touching them and they have to feel that. And because they want to be with you just as much as you want to be with them, they will need to work through that in the right way to be able to stick with you, return to you, etc. Which also means that you can be the one doing the key exercise systematically and consciously. And they will be taken into that movement because you do it. And it will work. And it will just also mean that there will also come moments that you trigger them, that they are upset. And because you are genuinely tuned into and committed to this inner work that leads like that all the time again, they will do the same and they will return to you and they will have processed their part as well. That's how it works, and it can be very okay if your twin flame is upset by you as well. We're not going to become bullies, of course, that are going to hurt them on purpose. No, dude, that's not what I'm saying. But sometimes you can recognize that that can also happen. Oh, here it was. So this all happened to me as well, of course, because I also did the full process of going to my harmonious twin flame union state of consciousness. And when we were in union, and then 3 months later, I was in the consciousness state of harmonious twin flame union. But when we were in union, like that last time before we fell into that consciousness state, I remember I was incredibly upset. And I was deeply angry. And how I got into the consciousness state of harmonious twin flame union 3 months later was by accepting that no matter how livid I was at him, that I would accept this was it. And I needed to work through it. And that was the only way. And it seemed impossible to work this out. And I accepted it nevertheless. So I welcomed it in. And then I was in harmonious twin flame union. There you go. And ever since, we've been working this out. That's the twin flame inner work. And it can be me that is livid in my kind of way, from my kind of perspective. But they can have the same kind of experience, maybe in another moment, about seemingly something else. But it's actually sort of the same at the same time. But at the same time, quote unquote, is a spiritual sentence that can, in the timeline of now it is 4:30, and in an hour it's 5:30. In that kind of timeline, it can be a little bit uh, torn outside each other. It's a little bit at a different time. But you're working on things roughly at the same time. You could say, nevertheless, at the same time. So it's also logic that they have their own upset towards you as well, and they're working through that. Yeah. And you accept that and you welcome it and you feel grateful for it. This being livid at my true twin flame and my resolve that I would accept it, to work through it completely in every little detail that was needed. That was a way of translating what the key tool for twin flame inner work really is. And that is what has healed everything in my life ever since. Everything I did since then has been an enormously healing endeavor. It healed everything in my life that was completely off and wrong, that seemed unresolvable all these decades before. In my body, in my health, in my self-image, in my psychology, in my trauma, in my financial life, in my income, in my debt forgiveness, in my mission completion, in my client success, everything was healed to a success from that welcoming my twin flame upsetting me. So I hope that helps. This is actually a live show in which we need to talk about some things that might help to answer this question even more. So let's see what I got prepared for us today. We have a twin flame union consciousness wisdom of the day, and it sounds like this. What goes against your sense of sane psychology can certainly be the best idea to move forward towards your true union, because it depends on something deeper than that, a place where even psychology is subordinate to divine law. That's true. So I will repeat that. What goes against your sense of sane psychology? Yeah, because you can have a wrong idea about it, and because you know, many of us will have a traumatized psychology before we have healed that inside the consciousness state of harmonious twin flame union. So our conception of what sane psychology is maybe also very off. But also, well, the rest of it, what goes against your sense of sane psychology can certainly be the best idea to move forward towards your true union, because it depends on something deeper than that, a place where even psychology is subordinate to divine law. Because did you know that when you do the true twin flame inner work, in which you welcome your twin flame upsetting you, in every true genuine step you make there that is fully complete, you will heal that part of your psychology that is in that realm active, and then it disappears. So, and then you make a new step. But so overall, psychology disappears and divine law takes over. And it does not necessarily need to be psychologically sane to be able to keep on following that twin flame inner work in the right direction and have success. Often it can have everything of this is psychologically insane, but I need to accept how I feel about that and do the twin flame inner work on it nevertheless. And then the psychology gets healed inside of you, and then it also disappears. The psychology disappears. Well, you may say, well, that sounds crazy, and I've never heard of that. And nobody has ever heard of nobody talks about that, Petra. What are you talking about? I know. The twin flame inner work is a little different. It's different than psychology. It's also different than, let's say, general spiritual work, which I have done a lot with my first spiritual teacher in my life. The meditative yoga kind of atmosphere, in which you also place your life as a yoga pose, quote unquote, and you resolve that matter. And that has still led to some beautiful key, the core twin flame inner work supporting exercises that I also provide for the people that study with me. They're more general spiritual development. But we need to take the key exercise central and serious. It's neither psychology nor general spiritual development. And it's also insane to think that you have mastered them both. Oh, but I already mastered psychology. Oh, but I already mastered general spiritual development. So I'll do it via that route. I'll do it via the other route. No, you do it via the twin flame inner work because you want to be with your twin flame now. And that's just possible and it's beautiful. And you have that desire in your heart. That's why you're here and you should do it. You definitely should. So divine law takes over. And we do have A Course in Miracles, and we're going to look at that right now as well. That's going to be awesome because that is a book in which the Christ Masters, with whom I co create the state of consciousness of harmonious twin flame union, have laid in that book what the underlayer of their teaching is, which is what is union consciousness. And that book that talks about what the heck union consciousness is and how you create it in yourself. And yes, union consciousness is in itself a basis for twin flame union consciousness, right? So that's why. So we're going to have a look in that book, ACIM, A Course in Miracles. And last year we've done this a lot in this kind of shows. And then I read the lesson of the day. There are 365 lessons. But right now, in this year, we're going to do it different. And I'm going to click on the Ask the Oracle button on the website or the app, ACIM Now app. Ask the Oracle, and then something comes out. It would be the same if I would be having the book here and I open the book at a random page, and then that is what we were supposed to read. I could do that because the book is actually right here next to me. But anyway, we're going to do it like this for now. Ask the Oracle. Let me click and then see where we're headed. And I will read at least a little bit in it. Sometimes we have long texts, and then I will just read only a little bit of it. Please, Holy Spirit, decide for us. And here it is. Chapter 29, The Awakening. Part 1, The Closing of the Gap. There's no time, no place, no state where God is absent. There's nothing to be feared. There's no way in which a gap could be conceived in the wholeness that is His. The compromise the least and littlest gap would represent in His eternal love is quite impossible. For it would mean His love could harbor just a hint of hate. His gentleness turn something to attack, and His eternal patience sometimes fail. All this do you believe, but when you perceive a gap between your brother and yourself, your twin flame and yourself, right? We just ended at divine law is what twin flames are governed by, right? So that means that there is no gap between you and them because there's no two, there's one, there's union is one. And if you don't believe that there is not a gap, in other words, there's no separation consciousness. In other words, there's no separation between you and your twin flame. If you don't believe that, you believe that there's a gap. and you believe that God is not okay, that God is not cool, that God is not love, that God has a problem, that God created something that has a problem inside of it. And that's just not the reality, because God is union, because God is love, because God did create you as one. Right, that was some commentary from myself. Let's read a little bit further. How could you trust him then? For he must be deceptive in his love. Be wary then. Let him not come too close and leave a gap between you and his love, through which you can escape if there be need for you to flee. Here is the fear of God most plainly seen. All right, so we're just afraid of God. That's what it's saying. That's why we don't believe in our union. Yeah. For love is treacherous to those who fear. Right. So if you are afraid, then the twin flame will be repulsed by you and walk away. So yeah, it's also clear how you can heal that. Don't be afraid. And it's not like, oh, but I'm not afraid. But it's like you may unconsciously be very afraid. You're just not aware of it consciously, but you actually are, you know? For love is treacherous to those who fear, since fear and hate can never be apart. No one who hates but is afraid of love, and therefore must he be afraid of God. Certain it is, he knows not what love means. He fears to love and loves to hate, and so he thinks that love is fearful. Hate is love. This is the consequence the little gap must bring to those who cherish it and think that it is their salvation and their hope. Right. People think that, well, my twin flame and I are separated, but I hope that that is right, that sounds like a twin flame story. So that's right. No, dude, it just means that you're very afraid and you have confused love with hate. It's not the case that twin flames are supposed to be separating or supposed to be running away from each other. And if you didn't, then it's not your twin flame and you just don't know what you're talking about. That's not true. Also, when you repair your consciousness in the right state where you accept that God is love and your union is one and you and your twin flame are one, then you will actually forget about that state that you had before. It will feel foreign to you. What about that? It's really true. So you won't be lingering, dabbling in wanting to have a definition of twin flames that still contains that idea of, yeah, because once we were separated, so that must define the twin flame. No, dude. When you are in the consciousness state of harmonious twin flame union, you will have forgotten all about that. You're not going to define the twin flame um, for the separation that you once experienced. God, no. Well, you're just very grateful that that is over. And you're very sure that you never want to revisit that. And in that sense, that is just like rolled up and thrown away. You forget about it. You're not going to define the twin flame journey through that. When you genuinely go through these developments, you will understand what I say. I still understand that many people experience this, that first they were separated from the twin flame and then later on they might have come together. I understand what that is about. Like physically, like in the story. But the harmonious twin flame union consciousness state means that you forget about the story. Yeah, and that's also, of course, a process, and it's also a moment, and it's done. It's both at the same time. So yeah, very interesting to experience. The fear of God. That's a little piece of the text again. The greatest obstacle that peace must flow across has not yet gone. The rest are past. Well, what did we just talk about? But this one still remains to block your path and make the way to light seem dark and fearful, perilous and bleak. You had decided that your brother is your enemy, or your twin flame, of course, is your enemy. Sometimes a friend, perhaps, provided that your separate interests made your friendship possible a little while, but not without a gap perceived between you and him, lest he turn again into an enemy. Let him come close to you, and you jumped back. As you approached, did he but instantly withdraw. A cautious friendship, and limited in scope but carefully restricted in amount, became the treaty that you had made with him. Thus you and your brother but share a qualified entente, in which a clause of separation was a point you both agreed to keep intact, and violating this was thought to be a breach of treaty not to be allowed. Well, isn't this interesting? Isn't this freaking interesting? Are you hearing what A Course in Miracles says here? That you have maybe now agreed to have separation between you and them. So what do you need to do? You need to break that um you need to break that clause that you have both. You break it, and because you're one at the core, they will break it too. You break that clause and you throw away, you forget about that separation contract, and you enter the union contract. So that's also why I speak about it. It's a whole different consciousness. That is, it's not problematic, but that's just what it is. All right. Very interesting. The gap between you and your brother is not one of space between two separate bodies. Yeah, because we think that, well, the twin flame is separate from us because they walked away in time and space. The body walked away, but that's not really the point. Well, it's a symptom of the fact that you have the wrong consciousness. But the true thing is not separate bodies, because when you are, let's say, in union and in the romantic relationship that you desire to play out with them, you will still be two separate bodies that at least move around the same house together, the same flat, the same apartment, the same, I don't know. So then you're still two separate bodies. But what the huge difference is, well, we'll read, I think we're going to read that in the next couple lines, but that is that you move as one in harmony from spirit out. That's the main difference. And that's why the consciousness change is important. And this but seems to be dividing off your separate minds. It is the symbol of a promise made to meet when you prefer, and separate till you and he elect to meet again. And then your bodies seem to get in touch and thereby signify a meeting place to join. But always is it possible for you and him to go your separate ways, conditional upon the right, quote unquote, to separate. Will you and he agree to meet from time to time and keep apart in intervals of separation, which do protect you from the sacrifice, quote unquote, sacrifice of love? The body saves you, for it gets away from total sacrifice and gives to you the time in which to build again your separate self, which you truly believe diminishes as you and your brother meet. So, when I talk about that, Maybe for some it might still sound like, but that comes close. Yeah, I understand, I think, a little bit what it said. No, this is talking about that when you are in the body consciousness, which is like opposite of the union consciousness where you actually need to go, then the separation is always there. You can't come to union. You can't. So you need to accept that it is not the body consciousness that we're talking about when we talk about twin flame union. We talk about the consciousness of the divine love in which you are created as one. And that's what you got to accept as the basis for your life in every aspect. And then the true thing starts. And then you stop um this whole thing of like let's work this out from our safe spaces in our own bodies, and let's prevent the true sacrifice of love. So now you're going to prevent again the whole point of twin flames, and you're back at square one. So that's all not it. So it is not meant to make it impossible to you, or to make it like a riddle to you or something. It's just that the consciousness is different, and you can just create that and you will experience it yourself. You will experience things differently, and your romance will actually start to happen exactly how you dream about it, with your true twin flame in harmony and joy, and it will be eternally after. And it will have a normal physical idea of how it works out in a manifested realm, the 3D realm, however you want to call it, in the realm of living together, building a family, building a business together, if that's for you, in contributing to other people's lives, in walking around in your bodies on the physical earth, on beautiful places on the earth that you want to walk around in. You will just work and live together and make money and raise children and have holidays and retire. These are all the normal things that will happen there in that consciousness of oneness. So, but it is in a different consciousness. And that might really change you. That's also something that people, I think, underestimate. It might really change you, you know? It might really change how you see yourself, how you look at yourself. Like your definition of like what you are, or like what your strength are is, or even how you're supposed to look in your bodily styling or whatever. It might change a whole lot, or only mildly, that depends. All right, we're just going to I will put the full text because there's a lot more text. This was beautiful, but there is more, and you can read it all, and I will put the link in the show notes, and the show notes are on Patreon. And then we're going to a segment of my book. All right, I do have a twin flame book, and it's called Twin Flames: Manifesting Your Abundant Life of Love. And it holds the background and the method for twin flame union, and how I created that and whatnot. And I already opened the book and something came out as if it was an oracle, right? And this is what came out. And it is actually a section of where I describe some elements of what the consequence of all the work is in my school, in my coaching. And in that segment, there is also, oh, this is actually from this segment in the book that explains a little bit about how all that stuff that is in my school, when you come behind the YouTube screen and you get into all the coaching programs, and, there's a whole world that opens up there for you and that you can go through and develop yourself through and whatnot. And that came into existence, all this twin flame work came into existence through me, let's say, downloading all kinds of spiritual information. And that's, in a sense, started to take shape definitively in how I was downloading that in the beginning of a series of um, summer rituals that I did in nature. And I think this is describing that. Well, maybe we should just read it. Maybe I say something that is not what this is. That would be funny. Anyway, it's the piece that tumbles out of the book is called 2015 Multidimensional Clearing, and this is how the text goes. So let's see how this fits in. It is fun to see how I currently in 2020, well, that's when I wrote it down, hardly remember how I exactly came to do the first one. Of the summer rituals in nature to download the information. But the notion of the power of crystalline structures in the physical crystal stones and emotional cause of affairs, feelings that create, symbolized by water, the mind, reformulation identity with divine truth, symbolized by patterning, and spiritual architecture of the soul with a complementary counterpart, and of source as the architect, symbolized by the time space reality in which the acts as sacred ritual would remain present in the garden as heaven on earth, arose in me, and I followed my inner nudge. In this year, I had the twin flame that I had known since my early teens very present in my heart in a conscious way as we came together telepathically to talk through what the plan would be and had a personal appointment in the later part of that year as well. And I had launched my first twin flame themed coaching series that I executed from January until around September. It had been in the previous year of 2014, around the end of spring and the beginning of summer, that I had seen videos of Master JD and Master SD on YouTube, the Christ Masters that I currently co create the state of consciousness of harmonious union with, on YouTube for the first time. And I remember at the time that they had a handful of videos online max, like a handful max. They lived in Hawaii and shot card readings, wisdom talks in the midst of daily life. And their topic was the relationship from the soul perspective, the twin flame relationship. This spoke to me because I had been looking around for meaningful twin flame information online for about 10 years at that time and had been enjoying a twin flame reading in 2013 from a coach well known in that specific field of action in the Netherlands at that point. However, their videos at that point had been kind of chaotic and certainly not as slick as in later times. It intrigued me enough to keep on following their moves, to later on found that this trace was the one true Christed answer I had been looking for. But only after severely testing if it was true for 5 years, from 2014 to 2019. So in 2015, there was a certainly coming together of all the powers that had been reformative ever before in my life, and the first 7 years period that had passed that was initiated as the time for me to unlearn what did not truly belong to me as a soul, as I had been in 2008, that I personally had started the cleansing that this initiation refers to. This is the first initiation that I pass on, and I started in 2008, and it's like a 14-year period, 7 years of undoing what does not belong to you, and 7 years of rebuilding who you truly are. And I pass it on as well. And that's actually also a part of everything I pass on. That's just me talking right now, not giving the text. I will return to the text in a second. That is a part of what I pass on. A few initiations is the first one. I think I have 5, and they just support the whole process of the key exercise that later became central, and all the supporting other twin flame work. I'm now talking about this initiation that I went through it myself, and that later on I was also able to and meant to pass it on. Okay, because Olaf Smith had assisted me with that initiation. When the years for me are counted in that way, I can see that the new period of 7 years in which to relearn what you do need is still going on today as I write this. Although I have felt this clearing to be an important individuation that fitted this series of events leading to consciously to be available for you in a school right now. It is not that this was my virginal awakening, far from that, but I'll keep it as such because I do feel that this serves as a very thorough yet understandable first chapter for your initiation journey in this lifetime, and in the light of the golden age in which twin flame union is the basis of living. That's what I'm adding right now. You will start remembering who you are. So I just and this then continues because this is about some circumstances that all came together in 2015 when I did the first nature ritual in the summer in the Lion's Gate with like crystals and this and that and water and whatnot, all symbolizing these fields, and remembering that when I write this down, like remembering that all these aspects of my life had come together. And that summer ritual eventually was known as 2015 multidimensional clearing summer ritual in the Lion's Gate with crystal and whatnot in nature to download the eventual twin flame teaching as I am now able to pass it on to you. And then in 2016, that repeated. In 2017, it repeated. In 2018, and 2019, and it repeated a whole bunch of years. And that was when I was able to eventually bring everything together. Yeah, that was the school. So that just gives some ingredients of how that happened. And it is a part of the whole story that is in the book. And it is on page 357. Let's move on. We're going to see which oracle card from the manifest union and mission cards that I designed myself is applicable today. And we have one. Here it is. C3.2. From the created to the acknowledgement of the news value. Acknowledge your news what? So there is sort of this big symbol of eternity. And it is as if it is from metal of some sort, and it is ringing. So, it's like a tuning fork, but then in the form of a eternity symbol. That's awesome. Let's have a look in the booklet what the title of this card is and what it means. C 3.2. Enrich the world. And doesn't that sound like what we just discussed about how I enrich the world by doing all these summer nature rituals in which I downloaded eventually the full teaching of my twin flame school that helps you forward? Take softly in your hand what is of value. Do not manipulate it. Instead, care for it. It is a drop of the highest value, and it costs no effort to make it flow through your fingers to the other places where it is needed most, in yourself and in your environment. Ease is important here because only then the flow comes without effort. Yes, your place in the flow of life is of the highest importance. This is the biggest acknowledgement of your role without being overly demonstrative about it. You have in your hands without having in your hands, and that is the correct attunement for union. You will be seen when you see yourself in that. The space you give by not coming forward ostentatiously will become filled by the universe with loving results and your twin flame that can come forward to join you. Congratulations, this is truly having. Keeping means to let it flow through. The flow of life runs through you as well. It flows in a unique way. Only through you, the specific value of your union comes into the world to enrich it. You are free while you still have in your hands what your union needs. That is what the world needs. In freedom, you can share and shape this unique intersection in which your union comes together and provides what the world needs. This creates union for others also. Which also reminds me of like the true union comes through, well, not the first blaring sound of the ego, but the secondary whispering of the union itself, which is pretty much, again, the definition of the title of today's show. Welcoming your twin flame upsetting you means that you bypass the first blaring, screaming voice of the ego and you go to the true soul voice inside of you. That's where it's at. That's where you find your union. Don't manipulate it. Have it in your hands without having it in your hands. Acknowledge it yourself and enrich the world with it. Beautiful. We're keeping it there today. I choose now to explore the most complete depths of my being. I surrender my mind completely to God that He may bring it into perfect harmony with His. I invite God now into my very core, that He may make it right, returning it perfectly to its state of eternal wholeness. I trust in the power of divine love. I choose to see the truth that it is universally accepted by all. At the core of every child of God, including me, we're all one with our twin flames and God. It is safe for me to open completely to love now. My love, love is not elusive unless you command it so. But don't worry, you could not choose against love itself, because you are love itself, manifest as you eternally. If you command it to leave, love does not leave, because it cannot possibly leave. But you leave love by the power of your command. And by that same power, you can command yourself to return to love. And it is so, revealing to you that love never left. It is safe to let go. It is safe to relax into love's eternal presence. Love is calling you home, and I'll be there waiting. I have always been here with you, and I always will be. Your next step. Don't forget to actually start the process and jump on the team. Actively come to our community, start doing the correct inner work, and ask the support you deserve through our services so that we can start a relationship that will lead you to harmonious union and beyond. When you're not in the relationship, you're not on the team, and you can't expect the results I'm speaking of and, in fact, guaranteeing. The show notes. You can, however, support this ongoing Twin Flame news as such. Make it possible as co-creator. Without your participation and financial gifts, I cannot do anything because we need to have an energetic and verbal visual exchange for things to make sense and to know what I need to talk about for you. And also, we're on Earth, and that necessarily always works with money as a means to make sacred content actually physically flow. Therefore, I post the show notes in Patreon. Come over and enjoy. Have influence on the broadcasts. Let me, for instance, know what you would want me to make a show about. Right there. The question is open right now on my Patreon. Don't miss out on these and more behind the scenes experiences. And at this time, I am providing an article every week. There is also hours of extra video content on my Patreon. And you find it at patreon.com/pej at Creative Universe. Or go to the description box below, open it and click the link, or go to the pinned comment and click the link. Normally, the divine love reading for twin flames that is connected to being in the Facebook community Your Abundance goes for €255. But this month, when you are a second tier Patreon member, you pay only €211. How to obtain this favorite reading that every self-respecting twin flame lover needs on their journey? Ask me for the link with more info about the reading, and then ask me for your personal pay link. I am Petra, in the consciousness state of harmonious twin flame union since March 2020. Worked with the Christ Masters on Earth right now to roll this consciousness state out so everyone can enjoy the abundant life with their true twin flame soon enough. After going in with me right here, don't search any further because you found what you were looking for. Om Amen.